name is Victoria Henderson, and I am the host of the podcast Listen Up Home Buyers. I'm very excited to have my associate and friend, Rona Fischman, as a guest today. Rona is the owner and principal broker of 4Buyers Real Estate in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Rona, welcome to Listen Up Home Buyers.
Hi, Victoria. Hi, everybody listening. Thank you for being here.
Rona, tell me why you became an exclusive buyer's agent, or I guess in your case, an exclusive buyer broker, and became a member of the National Association of Exclusive Buyer Agents.
Well, it was progression, but it was a very quick progression.
Mm-hmm.
I became an agent because I had been a teacher and a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, what I was good at was helping people take a body of information and use it to enhance their lives.
Right.
And eventually in 1990 and 1991, there was a recession in Massachusetts. There was a 10% cut in human services, and I was booted out.
Oh.
And I was like, what am I going to do next?
Right.
And I ran into a fellow who was running a small real estate company that specialized in disabled people's housing. So I could sight read Braille. I could use a slate and stylus and write in Braille. I know American Sign Language fairly well. I'm not an interpreter, but close.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to look at a house and say, this is what it's going to need to adapt for a wheelchair. Things like that I already knew.
Wow.
So we were a good match in Massachusetts until 2006.
Uh-huh.
If you were a real estate agent, you worked for the seller unless you signed off as a buyer's agent.
Okay.
It's a disclosure. It was intended, and the rate of people who actually got that thing signed was really bad until it started to get enforced. I was working with a couple. She liked modern and he liked classic. And I'm in New England. We walked into a house that had, oh my God, the minute I walked in, it was a riot because the living room, dining room were classic. They looked like Jane Austen would be sitting in it.
Awesome.
And then you turn the corner and there was this sleek modern kitchen with a laundry room and a bathroom. And they were like, this is the only house in the Commonwealth we're ever going to be able to live in together.
Yeah. And sounded perfect.
I'm a seller's sub-agent. My license depends on me getting the highest price for the seller. Right. This house had been on the market for like 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah.
And nobody was buying it at the price that it was at.
Yeah.
And I walked in with this offer that was at least $15,000 more than they should have been paying for it.
Right.
And I was like, I put in the offer. I got it through purchase and sales, which is our second contract.
Mm-hmm. And
I got it to closing. And I said to my broker at the time, if I have to do this again, I'm going back to teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that doesn't sound like you, the you I know.
It's functionally dishonest. At least I felt like it was functionally dishonest.
I agree with you.
Here were people who trusted me as a human, even though I told them in writing that anything they say goes back to the seller. I mean, that's what the agency disclosure says.
Right.
So anyway, I was not going to stay a seller's agent. I had 2 listings in that first 6 months. And I didn't enjoy doing the marketing and trying to get people excited about a thing.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not me. So a piece of it is it's not me. A piece of it didn't match what I thought was important. And what I thought was important was taking people into my car, driving them around and helping them make a huge financial commitment to something that's going to house their lives.
Right.
Right. I get to walk down the street. Literally, there's this apartment building right near the branch library in my town. That is like this nasty little start your life kind of apartment building. Sure. And I moved like 4 households out of there. And every time I go to the library, I look up and I'm like, I did something.
Something good.
Those people don't live there anymore.
Right. That's wonderful. No.
And it's like I've got all these touch points all over my world because I work where I live. So it's really great. And I bump into people on the street and things like that. So it absolutely suits me.
Yeah. I like what you said. I like that you said, I didn't want to be selling a thing, you know? you want to help people. And at the core, I think that really is the difference between an exclusive buyer's agent and a traditional agent. Something about helping people is at the core of exclusive buyer agency. And
Absolutely.
it
And what's at the
resonated with me as well.
and what's at the core of the listing business is marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's turning the house into the most desirable thing.
Right. Right.
It's like the people who take pictures from 10 years ago and put them on Tinder. You know?
I wouldn't know
You
about
know,
that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit beyond that also, but I know that that there's all kinds of
That's
jokes about
funny. Yeah.
what people look like on Tinder and what people really look like.
Right. Right. That's funny.
And listing sheets are a good bit like that, but the marketing stuff did not appeal to me. And teaching people how to read through the marketing
Mm-hmm.
is an intellectual exercise that I enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you there as
Little things
well.
like that.
Because, if it says charming or cozy, it means it's about,
Small.
700 square feet or less.
Small.
You're like, "Ugh," you know.
Yeah. So why am I an EBA? Because I hate being a marketer and I hate developing a relationship with somebody and then negotiating against them.
Yeah.
So that's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how did I find NABA? I found NABA because in Massachusetts, buyer agency had just begun. There were a couple of advocates in Massachusetts.
This is
that started
1992, 93.
1992. And some of the people from Massachusetts were founding members of NABA, which is the National Association. So technically,
Mhm.
I'm a founding member.
That's so cool.
So when I was a new agent, I didn't know anything, and I knew I didn't know anything. So I was trying to learn everywhere.
Mhm.
And I went to this class about how to show a property.
Mm.
And this is my first year, how to
Right.
show a property. And the guy spent an hour and a half explaining, you take people to a house that you know they're going to hate. Then you take them to one that is run down.
Mhm.
And then you take them to the one you want them to buy.
Wow.
That's what they were teaching new agents in 1992.
Wow.
And I was like, holy moly, I'll go back to teaching.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
have to do that
Yeah. I hear you.
for a
I
living.
hear you. Yeah.
I mean, and it's a game I don't want to play.
Yeah. I agree with you.
And the game I want to play is find the best house and get it for as little money as we can get away with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and there are some markets where we get away with some stuff
Mhm.
where we know that the seller has to sell and we have more bargaining power and we're going to use it. And we're having a really good run
Mhm.
with things that if the things don't sell in 3 weeks,
Mhm.
everybody thinks something's terribly wrong with it.
Mhm.
And sometimes there's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with the way it was marketed. Right now, if you underprice property, you get a bunch of people jumping all over each other to keep raising the price and compete with one another. And then you get to the
Exactly.
price that it should be. Takeaway for consumers listening,
Mhm.
find the ones that didn't sell right away, because it's more likely there's something wrong with the seller or the seller's agent than there's something wrong with the house.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
9 times out of 10 here, it's about price. Usually, the owner has placed a higher value, and thinks the house should be listed higher than what the comparable properties show.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, it's a property that's been flipped, so that flipper wants to start high.
And we know that, we know sort of the way that marketing happens,
Mhm.
so we can read past it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like a translator.
Mhm.
It's like I was walking out of a house and the agent said, well, we've had a lot of activity.
Mhm.
And I said, after we stepped out, I said to the buyer, she's trying to push us to make an offer by
Mhm.
instilling fear that somebody else is going to make an offer.
Right. And the other thing that we also have where we are right now are, multiple offers on a single property.
Yeah, we
And
do too.
that gets really, really difficult. It's hard to protect a home buyer when they're competing against 5+ other home buyers for a property.
And that's where you have to say the market study says it's worth X.
Right.
Anything over about 5,000 over X,
Mhm.
you're paying too much for it. So
Mhm.
you are betting that the market's going to keep going up the way it's going up.
Right.
Because
That's a
if
good
it
way of
doesn't,
putting it.
then
Yeah.
you're the one who bought at peak.
That's
And
right.
nobody wants to be the person who bought at peak.
Right. Unless they absolutely don't care. And I don't really know. I don't think I've had a client like that.
Nobody is rich enough to not care about money.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Even if they don't really need the money, if somebody has a lot of money, they care that they
They want to
don't.
keep it and manage it. Right.
And that's our job. We're fiduciary agents.
Mm-hmm.
We have to give them the information of this is sound financial advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this is the advice that I'm compelled to give based on the market study, based on what the market is doing, based on the competition that we're sniffing out, that other buyers are going to be in this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pay over $975 for this property,
Mm-hmm.
you are overpaying.
Mm-hmm.
If we continue to have the kind of housing inflation we have, you'll be okay. But otherwise, you're going to be the one who bought at peak. If
Right.
this is a once in a lifetime house, that it's up to you. And
Right.
if it's a layout that I can tell you there's 10,000 of them within a quarter mile of here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you there'll be another one of these.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to wait 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
if you wait 4 months for it and you save $75,000,
Mm-hmm. That's
your choice.
It's worth it.
I don't feel so bad when something is really spectacular and there's 3 buyers on it.
Yeah.
But when something is very ordinary
Uh-huh.
and there's 5 buyers on it
Yeah.
and they're asking us to waive home inspection and all
Mm-hmm.
this nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
because we think it is bad financial advice to buy a 100-year-old house without a home inspection.
Yeah. You think?
And people think I have green hair.
Yeah.
When I tell them that, they're like, you can buy a house with a home inspection. I'm like, yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a house that's been on the market for 6 weeks yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And the agent was there telling people, well, if you want a home inspection, you should have a pre-inspection.
And just for those of you who don't know, a pre-contract home inspection is when you agree to have a home inspector come out, and in our area, we call it a walk and talk, where they walk around the property for about an hour, look at all the major systems, look at the outside, and they give you a quick thumbs up or thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you pay for that when you haven't even made an offer yet.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And she's pushing people to waive their home inspections on a 125-year-old house. I mean, there's all this craziness.
Yeah.
So for a consumer to be working with somebody who said that,
Mm-hmm.
this listing agent said that in that house, an hour later, they may be out shopping with a buyer and calling themselves a buyer's agent.
That's exactly
because
right.
people are allowed with designated agency to be a buyer's agent at 3 o'clock and a seller's agent at 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose that there's no way that I was going to switch gears like that back and forth all day long.
How do you evaluate a property for your buyer client right now in this market in 2023? And what are, we have already covered some of the challenges that people are facing, but talk about evaluating properties a little bit.
So that's the first thing, is getting a search that makes sense, that has as few duds as possible. So if we're doing it right, after about 3 weeks, there's like 1 or 2 duds a week out of 6, if that's the ratio of what's coming in. We're also in this low inventory market where people can go 2 or 3 weeks before there's something that's not an obvious dud.
Right.
Depending on what they're looking for. And then there's the nonsense that's on the listing sheets, which is, I want 3 bedrooms, and then we get there and it's really 2 bedrooms and the 3rd bedroom's a living room.
That happens a lot, and it's so frustrating, especially when they call a basement room with no windows and no egress. Oh, that's the extra bedroom, and you've wasted your time going out.
Yeah, that's the bedroom for people you don't like very much.
Right.
So that's sort of what you see. And then explaining to buyers that the asking price is just marketing. So it's picking the properties, reading the written material with a jaded eye, knowing what the value of it is before you make an offer. So we do a market study before you make an offer. We've been, between us, and we work very collaboratively in my office.
Mhm.
So if somebody sees something at a house and they don't know what it is, they'll take a picture of it. We'll get a text and we'll go, "What the heck is that?"
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, someone took an Altoids box and put a junction in it." So
Are you making that up?
we have a picture of that.
Gosh. And the house is still standing, huh?
Yeah, as far as we know, our buyers didn't buy it,
I
but
guess
somebody
not.
needed a metal box to put two wires that were put together with a clip, and all they had was an Altoids box, so it was in an Altoids box. But we see things all the time.
Yeah.
And we'll say to people, this is wrong, but it's easy to get to fix.
Right.
But we'll say, we've been to numerous home inspections that say that if a concrete foundation is cracked that way, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how big a deal, but I can tell you that's a big deal. Let's go to another house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're not engineers, we're not home inspectors,
Right.
but we're also not stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've seen hundreds and hundreds of
houses, and I've been to hundreds of home inspections. So before you bother making an offer,
yeah,
you have an idea of what kind of problems you have.
That's right.
So, and that's all about, again, why am I an exclusive buyer's agent? Because I want people to take a body of information and use it to enhance their lives.
Yeah.
And there we go.
That's one thing I will often tell buyers when we first meet, and then they get used to this, is I am going to tell you my opinion, and I'm going to tell you what I find wrong before I start standing in the kitchen and telling you how much I like the countertops and the, and the cabinets that are hanging in there. I go in with a critical eye because that's how I was trained, and that's how all the agents that I work with are trained. And
that's
then we can
our
celebrate
job.
good. Right.
The crux of what's different about working with an EBA is we don't care what house you buy. We're not connected to any houses. None of our coworkers are listing the houses. We just want you to take your money and turn it into the best possible house that's out there for you. And we're going to stick with you until you do that.
That's right.
And that is just a different way of getting up in the morning when you're a real estate agent and an EBA than if you're a real estate agent and you're doing whatever business comes your way. We've made a conscious decision to give up the easier side of the business because right now we're in a seller's market. Right. Listings are easier. I can make 3 times the money I'm making if I was listing property, but I wouldn't sleep at night and I would hate myself. And therefore, I'm going to leave the marketing to people who love it.
Yeah.
And those are the people I refer your listing to, your house's listing to. Sure. When you go to sell, we know which listing agents take care of their clients, and we respect them and we love them. And God bless them, they know how to market property.
That's right.
So I don't have to. It's a combination of what I love and then what I can do for people.
Rona Fischman is the owner and principal broker of 4 Buyers Real Estate in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Rona, as always, it is so much fun to have you on Listen Up Home Buyers. Thank you.
I love talking to you, Victoria. You're welcome. And bye, everybody. Buy a great house.